please read the definition, then provide the term. Student up front.
Result of the English refusing to stop selling opium to Chinese citizens. The Chinese were no match for the English Navy and were crushed. Opium War.
Very good. Does anyone know what opium is? We've heard of this before, maybe? It is a drug. Specifically, what does it do? Anyone know? Or what it's made from?
Oh.
It's a plant that they use in cocaine.
It's a flower that this hails
It's
from.
poppy.
It's poppies. Very good.
And if you eat a poppy seed bagel, you will test positive for a drug test.
Yeah,
Very
about
small amounts. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, fun fact though here. Before you guys had pain numbing agents, like if you have an anesthetic to get a surgery or whatever, they would use opium or alcohol and make you really inebriated before they gave you a surgery. However, the problem with both of those is it thins your blood. So if they essentially get you high on opium, your blood also is thinned. So when they're operating, some people tended to bleed out. Okay, so you can see how this isn't going to work. Okay, next term, please. Go ahead, Sid.
Result of the Opium War, it gave the British extraterritoriality, indemnity, Hong Kong and other major ports, Treaty of Nanjing.
Treaty of Nanjing, very good. Next term. Go ahead, student up front.
1850 to 1864 was the most devastating peasant revolt in history, trying to establish the heavenly kingdom of great peace and end the Qing dynasty.
Qing dynasty, very good.
The rebels controlled parts of China. The Chinese government railed support of regional governors and ended uprising, Taiping Rebellion.
Very good. Next, excuse me, next term, please. Go ahead.
Ruler of the imperial court blocked modernization efforts, claiming reformers were traitors and had been jailed, exiled, or executed.
See she. That's how that's pronounced. Okay, see she, as in literally, you can see or you travel to the sea. She as in female. Okay, next term. Ms. Robinson.
1898, in response to China's loss against Japan and the partition by Western nations, when a young Emperor Guangxu created new laws to modernize China politically and economically 100 days or before.
Very good.
Was 100 days?
Yeah, approximately. Next, sir. Student in the back.
Okay, all Western nations to trade openly in Chinese ports, open door policy.
Good. And that's that cartoon we started with, so don't forget that one. Next term, Whiteman.
Led by underground society, righteous Harmonious Fists, which was created in 1899, was an anti-foreigner movement that was used to drive out Westerners. Boxer Uprising.
Very good. Now, a painting, rather, a lithograph here that you could have, and you could witness this. Again, you can notice the pow of the individual. What you have to understand is, again, they're not just willingly accepting all Westerners. You've had a culture that's existed for centuries, millennia, that is rich and diverse, and the West is essentially saying, we have our own agenda, you need to adhere to it. Next term. Go ahead, Ms. Robinson.
First president of the People's Republic of China, he set up the Revolutionary Alliance with the goal of rebuilding China and the three princes of the people, Sun
Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen. Okay. If you want to go ahead and write how it would look phonetically down next to it, that may help you study this. Next term, Ms. Valeno.
Nations exporting more than importing, and thus making a profit. Balance of trade.
Excellent. Now, a lot of you instantly went the route of a surplus. You can put that down there. That is acceptable. But essentially, you have to understand when you are engaging in an economy, you can have an abundance of goods, but as long as you're consistently purchasing, you can never have an overall surplus. Because once you have to buy something to make another product, you're essentially going into debt. All right? Next term. Ms. Robinson?
Buying more from a nation and then you are selling to them, trade deficit.
Good. You can also, if you need to write down, that's like extreme debt. Okay, you could have an economic deficit if you live your life by a credit card and don't have the money to pay that back. is essentially what a country is doing with a trade deficit. You're buying more than you're able to sell, thus you're going backwards economically.
And what is deficiency?
Lacking or missing of something. Like if you have iron deficiency, you don't have enough to operate naturally, so you need supplements to battle that. It's the same theory. Okay? Next term, please. Student in the back.
Payment for losses in war, indemnity.
Indemnity, very good. And then the final term. Ms. Whiteman.
The rights for people to live under their own laws and to be tried by their own courts while existing on foreign soil. Extraterritoriality.
Extraterritoriality. If you want to split this up and how to pronounce it, you have extraterritoriality. And then you just put it all together. Extraterritoriality. Okay? Great job, Term Rock. True or false? Number one, after the Opium War, Britain and China signed a treaty that made trade equal and fair. Mr. Newman.
It's false, and it is after the Opium War, Britain and China signed a treaty that made trade unequal and unfair. The British demanded indemnity, or payment for their losses. Britain also acquired Hong Kong. China was forced to open trade ports. British citizens in China were granted
Extraterritoriality.
which was they could be tried in their own courts.
Excellent job. So essentially, if you need to understand extraterritoriality, how this would work, you commit a crime in a separate country, you cannot be tried for that crime there. You would return home to be tried for that crime. Okay, now this was a way that a lot of Westerners would use to get out of said crimes. Okay, in a sense that though all the witnesses are locals, who are they going to believe when you have to go back to the mother country? So a lot of crimes are going to go unsolved and unpunished during this time period. Great job. Number two, the Taiping Rebellion received full support from Westerners and completely toppled the Qing dynasty. Ms. Langer?
Okay. That is false. And the Taiping Rebellion almost toppled the Qing dynasty. The Qing government survived, but it had to share power with regional commanders. Russia seized lands in the north.
Excellent job. Okay, now this is one of those test-taking strategies. If you look at the prompt here for number two, receive full support, completely toppled. Those should be words that just instantly flare up and you're like, wait a minute. That's saying, yeah, 100% everyone is on board and is just happy as ever. Okay?
No.
When you see that, typically speaking, and especially if you're doing the true-false correction style of learning here, it's almost always wrong. Okay, because that's saying 100% of everybody with sunshine and rainbows ready to rock and roll here. No. Excellent. Number three, by the mid-1800s, educated Chinese were divided over the needs to adopt Western ways. Alex?
True.
Absolutely. They were divided. We're instantly saying quite the opposite for number two. We don't agree. Absolutely. We don't know how to handle this just yet. Okay, and remember this will be available later if you need to refresh. Number four, despite a crushing defeat in the war with Japan, China was able to hold off imperialist pressures from European nations. Donahue.
Western powers moved swiftly to carve out spheres of influence along the Chinese coast, and that led to the open door policy.
Good. Absolutely. So we displayed China's weaknesses, number one. So we established that, yes, they lost, and yes, we have gaps in defense. Carve out spheres of influence. Yeah.
Can we see Brianna McGinney, please?
On her way. Carved out spheres of influence along the Chinese coast, and that was the open door policy. Okay, excellent job. Number five, Western powers in Japan organized a multinational force to crush the Boxer Uprising. Welch.
True.
Good. Number six, because the Boxer Uprising failed, okay, we know this because number five said that that's what happened. Because it failed, nationalism never took hold in China and remained a monarchy. They failed, they gave up forever, and moved on with life. That's basically what your prompt is saying currently. Okay, Mr. Welch?
False. Nationalism spread like wildfire over China because reformers wanted to strengthen China's government.
Absolutely. Okay, led by this individual. How do you pronounce this again?
Sun
Yat-sen. Very good. Sun Yat-sen. Revolutionary Alliance called for the Republic. Okay? This is saying kept with the monarchy style. Now we have Western government. Write that down. Western government. So not only are they not open to the idea, they want their own country. Okay? We don't want total Western influence, but we have here is a Western style of government. So they are taking components of society from the West, but they want to use it in their own fashion. Does that make sense? We understand your style of government. We don't want to be controlled by you, though. So we'll take that idea and try to apply it to our own country. Excellent job. Finally achieved in 1912. Objective. Specify the rights Westerners sought in China. There should be an overall theme of this. Student, go ahead.
A need for expanded markets for your European goods, a better economy, and military power.
Excellent. Economy needs to grow, military strength. Essentially, this is all going to boil down to one symbol. What is it?
What do you mean by symbol?
Symbol.
It's a symbol. We constantly just throw in here to describe economies.
Money? Oh, wait, just kidding.
Dollar sign. Very good.
I was right.
Okay? One symbol. Why do they essentially want to be involved in China altogether? Which goes to the central idea that the student provided here. Economic growth. Money. Expansion of your economy. Again, that's our desk theory. Everyone in the room has one, and we're all happy with it. We need to sell it to other people before we go bankrupt. Okay? Explain how internal problems weaken China. Go ahead.
Canals were poorly maintained. Massive flooding led to Taiping Rebellion, which lasted through 1850 to 1864.
Why was that fought? Taiping Rebellion. That's a great one to go with. And anyone, you could use your terms for this too. Why was that fought?
Why was
Taiping Rebellion. Lily?
They were trying to establish the heavenly kingdom of great peace.
Okay, so essentially they're revolting against what? The Qing dynasty. Very good. Okay? So you can say here this was a push to democratize the country, which means what?
To unite.
Not to unite. If you want to democratize something, are the people going to be happy or upset?
Happy.
Happy. Why?
They're going to have a say in the government.
They're going to have a say in the government and more rights. Very good. So write that down. Happy face. Rights. Okay. Internal problems of what the student did an excellent job with was providing both a political and an economic. Because you can argue your infrastructure is an economic issue. Consider this. The roads are so bad that semis have to stop, every 30 miles to change their tires. Okay, how much would shipping cost?
A lot more.
A lot more than what you're used to right now. Because you're going to have to pay for those tires to be replaced all the time. That's what we have going on. Describe the goals of Chinese reformers. Go ahead, Mr. Harbin.
Okay, self-strengthening movement, the importation of Western technology. Some of the Chinese blamed officials for not modernizing China after defeat by many nations, like Japan and Britain. To stop looking at the past of Chinese history, and the 100 Days Reform, which encouraged industries and affected schooling and military.
Excellent job. I'll explain this here in a minute. Okay, so self-strengthen, number one, focus on your own country. Western technology, we're falling behind. We have the example of the issue with canals. We are falling behind. There's a lot to be learned from the West. Look to the future. Now this is somewhat different from India, where one of their major goals was to do what?
Look at their
Look at their histories and preserve their cultures. Here we're saying, that is fine in its own right, but look to the future. Look at the long-term scale of your country here. 100 Days of Reform, education, and military. We have examples in several conflicts here how the government is falling behind. Okay? Any questions?